Hello, hello, and welcome to Millennial Notebook. My name is Stella,
And my name is Emily.
and here we talk about living life as a millennial in the modern age.
Get comfy, grab your notebook, and let's enjoy the ride together.
Hello, and welcome to part 2 of our first episode on talking about struggles on just living life as a millennial. So our main struggles, right? So
Yeah.
in part 1, episode 10, we talked about financial struggles.
Yeah.
And in episode 11, part 2, we will be focusing on just the general struggles like work-life balance, hustle culture, and just, guilt for relaxing sometimes. And
Leisure guilt.
But before we dive in, we will talk about, what did you want to talk about, Emily?
Skincare routine. But I'm going to start with this one because I'm going to be honest, mine's really simple.
Okay.
And
All right.
you might laugh at it because
Okay.
it's pretty... Hey, look, it's better than nothing. It used to be nothing.
You
I'll
look
say that.
great, though. Like,
Oh,
I
thanks.
have...
You can't see my chin. That's where I get all my acne, unfortunately, is my chin. But I touch my chin a lot, so I get like...
So that's probably the problem. It's not your skincare routine.
Oh, no. Well, I mean, but the skincare routine, if I did a good job, would actually help it. Let's just say I'm very blessed. I don't get a lot of pimples. I do get some quite deep pimples around my chin. I think that's hormone pimples.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a picker, so yeah, I tend to make it worse. So not so
A
good.
what?
I'm a picker. Like I pick at it. And it scabs.
Okay, wait. So tell us about your skincare routine.
Okay, so what I do sometimes. Sometimes when I shower, I do I'll do a foaming cleanser.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sometimes you don't use a cleanser?
Sometimes I don't do anything. Usually most days I don't do anything.
Even
but,
as you shower? You don't
no,
do
if I
anything?
I don't. I'm about to like. Okay, I don't shower every day, which some people may find that horrible.
I mean, if you're in a colder climate, it's possible. Like, you can do...
Oh no! In Japan, I had to shower every day. It was like you couldn't get away.
Yeah.
No, sweated through my everything. Here I can get away with it.
Yeah.
Just use a buttload of deodorant. No, I don't shower every day, but when I do shower, I do a foaming cleanser. I use the Etude House something or other.
Okay.
And then I use the Skin and Sky exfoliator. Don't know if you're supposed to use it, but I usually use the two, one after the other. Then when I get out of the shower and on the days that I don't shower and I go straight to work, I do my best to always do at least a moisturizer and a sunscreen. And that's it. And then sometimes, if I'm feeling really like self-care, I will use the Skin and Sky, Sand and Sky. Sorry, Sand and Sky. It's an Australian brand. I use their pink clay mask. Really good for getting all that crap out of your face.
Ooh.
And
I thought you said simple. This doesn't sound simple.
Oh, this is like once every month maybe. And then I've got a few other masks that I use. So it might be like I've got like a one from Lush and some sort of
Interesting.
cleansing, moisturizing one. But anyways, on the days I don't do anything, it's just moisturizer and sunscreen. That's it.
And that's not even not doing anything, because some people actually don't do anything. So that's pretty good, actually.
Yeah,
it's a very...
I've built up to that. I've learned you have to kind of build up to that. I'm sure there's more things I could add, but like, way over my head. I don't have time for that.
Right. Interesting.
Right,
I actually, I also, I got into Korean skincare for some time, but it was just too much. I don't know if you've ever heard of the so I mean I was never able to go up to 10 steps, so maybe like 5 back then, but it was just like too much work. And when I got too busy with my work, it's just it's hard to find the energy to even like do all of that layering.
And it takes time too.
Yeah, because you have to let it sit. But in any
Yep.
case, so now the one that works with my schedule and my energy levels is like in the morning, I wash my face with a foaming cleanser because I have oily skin. And then after that, I follow that up with a moisturizing milk or what they call perhaps overseas is a serum. And then after the serum, I use my moisturizing cream. And after that, if I have acne, or if I'm ever encountering like, because I have very sensitive skin, so sometimes I get itchy for some reason. Like I probably touch my face, or my cat touched my face.
Yeah. That's a good thing.
So I'm a very big fan of tea tree oil. Because tea tree
yep.
oil is a natural product of Mother Nature, but it is actually known for its antibacterial and antifungal properties. So it's actually an antiviral properties actually. So it really helps with the acne, and because I have tried the over the counter medicines for acne, and they're just too harsh for me. And I think the pimple patches work as well, but it's just
they're amazing. I use those too.
Yeah, but they're expensive and they're kind of inaccessible here. I haven't seen them
really?
on the counters in Japan. So
Interesting. My friend gets them. I usually get like 5 packs from my friend.
Are they Japanese?
No, she just
The
gets
products?
she just gets her products sent over.
Korean?
I think it's through Wish or something like a Korean something or other.
I can't be bothered.
That's fair. She does it anyway, and so I just jump on and I get like
But,
maybe 5 for $15 or $20. Yeah,
not bad. But
not
it's
too bad.
just but the fact you can't cover them, right, is I mean, you can try to cover them with makeup, but it's just it looks
Oh no, you
weird that you have a
can't.
patch.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I just do it at night. I can't. I wouldn't wear it during the day. Yeah.
So during the day, I use my tea tree oil to do I do spot treatment. So I put it there, and so that's and of course sunblock. I will never leave the house if I can without sunblock.
Getting better at doing that. That's like the one thing that's going to
It's very
save my
important.
skin. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially like
here in New Zealand.
Yeah,
with
I was
the
gonna
ozone.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah, you should. I'm an advocate for sunscreen because skin cancer is a real thing. People wear your sunscreen. Okay, so there's that. And then in the evening, if I'm not doing that minus the sunscreen, I also do my exfoliation routine. And what that consists of is so a toner. BHA toner from Cosar X. So all of these are in the Cosar X series, but so I
have heard good things about them. Yep.
Yeah, it's a Korean brand. So I use the toner, and then I use the BHA and AHA acids in that order. And then that's it. I let it sit for the night, and then next day my skin looks great. You do have to work up to it. Please don't use them in that order at the same night if you have very thin skin or sensitive skin, because I have very oily skin. So it's good for me, but not really the best for other people. So I have a good friend who has dry skin and it didn't work for her. So yeah, but it works great for me. So that's mine.
Nice.
Great.
And
so
you look
moving on to
beautiful
the
always.
You too, Emily.
Shucks.
Yeah, we're both cute. Anyway, just kidding. Our users are probably kind of our listeners are probably like rolling their eyes.
No one should be rolling their eyes. They should be going, yeah, and I'm cute too. And we're going,
everyone
yeah,
is cute. If you're
everyone is
listening to Millennial
adorable.
Notebook, yeah, if you're listening to Millennial Notebook, you're also very cute.
Oh, of course. But if you don't listen to us, then sorry.
Then you're not so cute.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so let's get down and dirty to the topic.
Okay.
I feel like with the tech boom, our lifestyles have shifted so much. And on that note, right, so a little bit later, we're going to talk about how work-life balance has, or rather what the work-life balance has become for you in your life, and what that balance is, right? Like, what's the percentage? So we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but I feel like that was driven by the tech boom, honestly. So, and my reasonings for this is because one, the boomers, right? They had to go to the office to work, and once they clock out, it's over. And even if it weren't, like say your job is you're on call, right? Then they have to call you up via like landline, right? And so that's assuming you're at your house. And so because people don't assume that you're attached to your landline the whole time, right? And so you can even pretend that you weren't there. So it was very easy to avoid work after you clock out. And nowadays, right, we have our cell phones. That is like everyone assumes that you're attached to your cell phone, and that's actually a fair assumption. It's fair, but some, like, what if, like, I feel like, especially if you work in the tech industry, right, it's so unfair because like people now, you have to stay attached to your phone because sometimes you want to do a detox, right? And once people can't reach you anymore, people start to panic and all these things unless you warn them, right? Anyway, so I feel like that has definitely influenced how we work and how we live as millennials. And I think this is one of the unique things that millennials kind of experience. And for earlier, and we are actually, the millennials are actually the transitionary generation from analog days to digital days. And I find that very interesting as well.
That we remember both as well, which is I'm just on the cusp of being a millennial and a Gen Z, and I mean, I have people who are technically after 96 who have much of the same lived experiences of like being a kid with cassettes and CDs, and your parents getting their first cell phone and like, Nokia brick phones, and then like, but also remembering having an analog phone on the wall and like, pre-internet dial-up. Oh my God. Like I remember all of those things. The dial-up is so hilarious. I feel like we're a really unique generation, I guess, because we remember life without and then with, and because we were young enough when we were growing up, like we've been able to move into the technological generation pretty easily because it was part of our lives from such a young age. So I can't imagine what it's like if you grew up pre or like after 2005 maybe, and like iPhones were things and iPads, and like you go to school and you worked on a computer and like all of these things that were just like foreign to us, I guess, or like exciting and new for us is just normal for them. It's and like what they miss out on. So poor zoomers.
And I don't know, I mean, there are good things and bad things with that, right? And I mean, sometimes you just have to anyway, but like
the good with the bad.
The good and the bad, you just have to deal with that. But okay, so I think we gave our listeners warning in our previous episode. This is probably going to be a little bit bleak just because life right now is pretty bleak. So okay, let's talk about work-life balance, like shifting from that, right? So technology has affected our working styles and our life in general, and so I'm curious to see how you feel like you've been managing that for yourself.
As in, how have I been managing my work-life balance?
Yeah, like how is the experience for you? Do you think you've been balancing it well? Like, what's the percentage there for you?
I'm in a bit of a weird spot. Like I'm kind of I'll kind of explain it. I'm in a really weird spot where I want more work during the workday because my company's not giving me enough work during the workday.
Really? I want that.
I need work during the workday because I have to be there from a certain time. But at the same time, I want to work less hours. So I want more responsibility, but I want less hours because for me, I've kind of going through a bit of a journey of kind of learning a bit more about myself and how my brain works and all these sorts of things. I thrive on a compressed schedule. So the shorter amount of time that I have to do something, the better for me in terms of getting it done. if you drag something on for longer, say like I have to be there from 9 to 5, it drags things out. And to be honest, I get all my projects done in like half the time that they're set out to do. The only time when I spend the full amount of time is when there's nothing that comes after it. For example, if someone gives me a project and it's like, oh, I just get done by the end of the day, and I'm like, I get it done in the first 2 hours, there's nothing there to do after that. So, which is even more frustrating. So
Yeah.
I hate that feeling. So what I end up doing is I end up taking the full 10 hours it takes to do the project, and it take me 2, but because there's just nothing else to do. So I'm kind of a cheeky worker as well. So I have a lot of side projects. Obviously, this podcast is one of them, and my little event that I work on, and that requires a lot of work. So recently, I've been getting into some bad habits, which I used to do at my old job, and I got away with it because it wasn't actually too bad at my old job, but there was always something to do, so I didn't do it too often. But I've started kind of working on that stuff on the side, because otherwise I'm sitting there doing nothing, and it's a waste of time.
I'm
So
really jealous of that. Oh my goodness.
I do it, and I do it. It's kind of like this little rush of adrenaline, like, I really shouldn't be doing this because I'm supposed to be doing work.
You're so funny.
But I've got to do something, otherwise I'm going to go freaking mad. So, yeah, I'll just do, I'll do cool-fi stuff on the side. So that's my work-life balance.
do a little bit of millennial notebook stuff on the side too, baby.
I will try. I can kind of get away with it if it's a lot of words. But when it starts to get visual, and my boss is kind of like, "What you working on?" And I'm like, "I've got pink shit all over my screen." It might be a little too obvious.
Oh, okay.
So if you need wordy stuff done, I can probably do wordy stuff.
Copy. All right, noted.
Yeah. So that's But
Okay, so that's actually pretty good. Like, maybe I should move to New Zealand. I feel like my life is so consumed by my
I don't
work
know.
that
I
I'm
think
kind of
I think the work-life balance here could still be better. Like, I feel like we still could do shorter days. Like, people don't really need to do 9 to 5 anymore, unless you actually have 9 to 5 amount of work to do. In which case, I'm super jealous. That would be great. But like, I don't think we need to do that. We could pull back. Weekends here, no one does. Most companies, you don't do too much overtime. You might do the odd like couple of hours after 5 on a weekday. But weekends, you're never bothered unless you work a pretty high level position.
yeah.
We're pretty, work life is not bad. Like, it could be better, but that's just because I'm selfish and I want more time to myself. But yeah,
right.
it's comparative to yourself, which I'm sure you you still want to move here.
Yeah, I mean, so on my end, I feel like I have very little balance right now, and I think it's also because of the type of work that I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's not because of my value system. Like, my value system is I wish I could have 50-50.
Yeah.
Because I do love my work, or maybe like a little bit less work and more of my life. So maybe like a 40-60 kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to be able to work up toward that, but right now it's also because of the country that I'm living and working in, right? There's this pervading culture of like, Japan is actually one of the longest working countries. Or how do I even explain that? Like,
They have the longest work days?
they work the longest. Yeah.
Right.
For each. So yeah, work like
in terms of how many hours a week they work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not just per day, it's also on the collective.
Yep.
And it's kind of, and I've worked for Japanese companies for about 5 years now, and my previous company was a little bit more chill, but I also got paid less, right? And in my current company, as a director for a video game media company, it gets really busy, and a day without overtime is very rare. I probably, like, in the whole year that I've worked for this company, I have probably not, like, the only days that I didn't do overtime were I can count with 2 hands, so it's less than 10 days.
Wow.
Yeah, and I don't know, I feel like I don't know if it's also because of I mean, I'm pretty sure that like as I've mentioned a while ago, like it's also the industry, right? And the type of profession that you have where for example, if you're working in the tech industry, right, you're probably going to be further in, you're going to be deeper in the hustle culture, I feel like,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's the culture of the company, I can imagine. So for example, my current company, it's still pretty young. And I say that because like okay, so to put perspective, it's actually not 15. Sorry, I think it's around 10, if I'm not mistaken. And the first 5 years were just the president, literally just working with a very small team. So it's your typical startup, right? In the first few years, and so I think it's relatively young as a public company, right? Does that make sense? And so,
Oh, is it like a publicly trading, like on the shares
it is
market?
already. It's actually, yes, it is.
Oh,
Interesting, isn't it? Yeah, but in any case, since it still has the roots of like a startup, it's very fast paced.
Yep.
And also just like the industry, the media industry, where you have to stay on top of news bits, and all of these things just make the balance all the more difficult. How about you? Like, I'm not sorry, I don't think I've ever heard what industry you work for. I know what you do.
I work in the
but-
tech industry, actually.
so what does your company do? Like what?
Okay, so
Because it's broad, right?
My company is a smaller company of a larger company. So there's like a group basically that owns a design agency that work upstairs from us. Then ourselves, we're a full web company, so designing websites for the web. And then we kind of have a sub company underneath us which do cricket software, essentially.
What does that mean?
Like the game of cricket, and it's all the software that goes into
my
scoring.
goodness. Interesting.
Yeah,
I was
so
just like, what?
yeah, so the game of cricket, we make all the software for them. So it's like an app, it's like a full-on desktop software piece that scores the game, and it helps like analytics and all this, like it's real crickety stuff that I'm not really interested in. And somehow I got pulled into the job of making an app for it. So I've learned a lot about cricket, but I still have no idea how cricket works.
Yeah.
But anyways, so my job is digital design. So I do all the UI stuff and a little bit of UX, which is like a bit of the thinking behind how something works. So I don't do any dev stuff. I don't do any coding. We've got people for that. And yeah, but essentially the reason I'm saying I have nothing to do, which you'd think, oh, but you work in the tech industry. It comes in ebbs and flows. It kind of like my peaks, and then my workload drops as the front end developers and the developers' workload peaks. So it's this kind of rolling thing of like they've taken over the project, therefore I've got very little to do. Then a new project comes in and I'm at the front end of it, so my workload goes up, and then as it goes to the front end developers, my workload goes down, theirs goes up. So it's this kind of like little waves, and like we're doing the opposite basically. So
Yeah.
at the moment it's pretty quiet, but I think the pandemic has a bit to do with that as well, because websites are a bit of a luxury. We work with a lot of government stuff, so everyone's funding's restricted quite a bit. And because the types of websites that we do are very high level, we're talking budgets upwards of 50,000, so between 50,000 and 150,000 for project budgets, and it's like they're usually full scale websites. They're not just kind of things you can make in Squarespace. There's actual coded functionality in there. So
Yeah.
but no, I get to do some fun stuff. Yeah, so that's what I do.
That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, pretty interesting. Yeah, I never heard of it, so that's interesting. Yeah, would you say like since it's a tech company technically, would you say there's a huge hustle culture within it?
No, I think I would struggle to say no, because I think the company was built off a pretty traditional structure. So it's not really that kind of Facebook-y tech. Because we're not a software company, we build stuff for other people. Like, we're not a software as a service company. We don't own a product that we're constantly updating and reiterating. Something like, for example, Netflix isn't or Facebook or Twitter or something like that. We build things for other people, so it's a pretty traditional service-based company.
Yeah.
So we're not really into that whole hustle culture. Our top level management, they're not really into that sort of thing. They have families and stuff, so it's just kind of like, it's more of a traditional 9 to 5. You come in, you get the work done, you do the odd couple of long hours, but weekends are free, and come back on Monday. So I don't think we have that hustle mindset, but I think I'm more suited towards that kind of thing, where it's like, I want to come to work and be like, go, 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 and then go home at the end of the day and be like, oh, that was fun. And then do it again tomorrow, sort of thing. But so I think I'm more suited towards that. But yeah, does that answer?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually, that's good, because like I feel like with the types of, like, people have very different personalities, and I actually met someone who, you know, she like, I think she's also, because she's very high energy, and I asked her, so she's actually working for TikTok, and
Ooh.
I don't know, I feel like I was traumatized by my current industry and company, right? And I that's why I kind of am making shifts away from that. But it does fit a certain personality, because that new person that I met, she said she like, she has gone through so much, but she feels like that has made her stronger, and therefore like the kind of speed that she experiences at TikTok is actually still pretty good. And I'm just like, and look at me, right? I have went through a lot, and I'm just like, nope. And then and it's also because, you know, like, she, as I've mentioned, she's super high energy, probably an extrovert, and, you know, isn't as afraid of conflict, and kind of like, perhaps maybe a little bit more, I think this is gonna vary per person, but like, just high risk, high reward, possibly, kind of type of person. And I think like, there's so many aspects of someone's personality that would make them more kind of fit toward a specific company culture, and I'm glad that you say that yours is a good fit, and at least technically to some degree, and it's not super like hustle culture, right?
Yeah. I mean, there is a line that I won't cross. Like, I love, I mean, it kind of balances out, because obviously with stuff I'm doing on the side, I get that kind of, that go, like, there's always something to do on that side of things. So, like, I'm kind of in more of a safeguard mode, where it's like, okay, I got my 9 to 5 and that pays my bills, but on the side, I'm working on the thing that's really gonna, in the future, be the thing that keeps me going and going and going. And because it's event based, which I've really enjoyed, it's this kind of build up to a big event. Like, it's like physically and mentally, like, it's that whole thing of, you know, you spend all of this time and energy on this bigger thing, and then it happens, and you get to experience it, and it's great, and you have an after party, and then it kind of comes down, and you're like, oh, that was fun, let's do it again, and then it ramps up again. So I look forward to hopefully that being my daily in the future, but I'm kind of in that I'm in safe mode at the moment, where it's like, okay, yeah, I gotta pay the bills, so I do the regular boring thing, and then, you know, spice it up on my evenings.
How do you? I mean, I want to ask you more about that next time. When I wonder what a spicy evening is like.
Don't ask.
Ooh, okay.
It's probably binging Love Is Blind. Let's be honest.
You're so funny. Okay. But for me, for example, like circling back to that conversation where I mentioned how the industry plus Japan has really made kind of this whole year in this job one of my kind of most stressful years
Yeah.
in my whole life, and I'm not joking. Like I feel like I've worked harder through in this whole year than I ever have, in the worst way possible, because like there's this
Yeah.
kind of work, you're working hard because you're young and you have so much energy, and also because you're chasing after a dream, and also there's this
Yep.
work of like
Yeah.
where you're already there technically, and you're just being worked to the ground because of the company
Yeah.
culture. And that's something I kind of, and it's a very thin line, right? Sometimes like it's when you're working hard for a dream, sometimes you are able to push yourself a little bit further,
Yeah.
but you know, when
think
you're
it's-
there, like, yeah.
It's all to do with compensation, personally. Like, if you're not being financially compensated for it, then you feel like you're being worked like
For
a
sure.
dog, because
For sure,
no
for
one's
sure.
actually saying, hey, you're actually working really hard and we appreciate it. Here's a bit more money because you
Yeah.
actually make a difference to our company. And that's
Yeah,
where I
yeah.
feel like, okay, this makes sense. And I feel like working this hard makes sense. And I'm
That
being
makes
compensated.
sense. Yeah. Compensation
But when you're
is
working
huge.
on something on your own, like in your own time or whatever, their compensation might not be financial right away. It might be in the future, but their compensation is emotional compensation of like, oh, I feel like I'm doing something that satisfies something in myself, and that's really important to have. Like, I don't have an issue with people, like I actually don't have an issue with hustle culture as such, as long as it's balanced.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you might work hard for a couple of months, but you have to get that compensation from something. It has to be an emotional compensation, or it has to be financial compensation. It has to be something that actually rewards you and goes, that was worth it. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So if you're not being financially compensated, which you have kind of mentioned a few times, then
Yeah.
like being worked like a dog is being worked like a dog. It's
Exactly.
not to
Yeah,
the bone.
yeah.
It's not fun.
But actually, it's not just even like, I also want to kind of talk about this in a broader perspective where hustle culture, I feel like, is also kind of permeating even, or maybe it's just the accounts I follow, right? And the type of people I hang out with. But it's just, don't you ever feel pressured to keep working and to not, like, it's as if you are you feel some guilt in just resting.
Yeah. You know what's really interesting? We for some reason get the paper at work. It was sitting on the front desk at work, and it was an article being like how to not feel guilty for taking time. For taking time off. I couldn't remember what it said exactly, but it was something along those lines of like, it was pretty much that same idea. And I was like, that's a really interesting headline to see in like local business, small business newspaper, or kind of like a mainstream newspaper, right? Something that our boomer parents would read. But yeah, it was really interesting that it's kind of hit the mainstream now, the idea of like how to not feel guilty for not working, because everyone feels that like
Guilt.
that guilt for not working.
Yeah.
It's such a millennial problem, right? Like yeah.
Actually, but I think it's also because it's what's being presented to us in the media, and also just again with the tech industries becoming larger and larger, and they become like, you know, and as they become larger, they hire more people, and you know, a lot of us end up in those companies, and it's just, you know, sometimes these like the culture in terms of like how we feel about our work is also set by these things, or at least facilitated by these things. And you know, actually it took me a long time, at least a year, to have been able to kind of move myself a little bit further away from hustle culture, and it's thanks to therapy. And I feel like moving away from that has kind of helped me feel much less anxious, a little bit more satisfied with my life, because I think the hustling really does take a toll, and it really does lead to burnout. And I was so burnt out last year, and it was one of the reasons actually why I went to therapy. It's because I couldn't deal with my life anymore. But yeah, I did feel guilty for resting. Actually, I'm also recovering from that, where because in my university, we have this saying where there's this I think it's Latin. It's called magis, which means more. And so it's one of the values that the university upholds, and basically like you should always give more in terms of whatever it is, right? Like effort, love, or like, money to charity, whatever it is. Just 110% is the mindset.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like so that was set within most of me, so like me and my classmates, right? So that was like the pervading culture there. And then it got kind of even worse moving into Japan, right? And but if we're gonna focus on Japanese companies, that's a whole new conversation, because there's an argument where working harder doesn't necessarily mean working longer, which is I feel like Japan is on the latter end of that. They just work.
They just keep working longer and longer, but you're not actually being more productive.
But that has definitely changed for tech companies, because tech companies do expect kind of efficiency. But how would you say you were able to kind of, do you want to move away from feeling guilty about resting, or are you okay with what you have? Like, have you always been good on your balance with that one?
No, my balance has always been a bit off. Like I'm always doing something, and it's gotten worse as I've gotten older, because it turned from hobbies into hustling hobbies. Like my artsy hobbies that I used to just do for myself, for fun. I've tried to always turn them financial, which is not good. You need hobbies that are just for yourself. But I can't help it, because I'm like, I think that's where it becomes an issue, because it's like, I'm not doing this for myself for what makes me happy. I'm doing it like instead of spending the time doing something that makes me happy, should be spending that time doing something that's going to benefit me in the future, like financially. Because
I feel that.
I'm in a position where I need to get ahead, and like you always need to be doing something that. So I've been trying to balance that a bit more, and being a bit more on the leisure side, and just be like, I just draw for fun. It's okay just to draw for fun, because I used to like be a prolific illustrator, and I just don't do it anymore, because there's two reasons for it. It's one, I haven't got time for it because I'm doing other things, which is fine, because they satisfy me creatively. I try and do things that are creative and fun in my hobbies anyway. Or my financial hobbies, my hustle hobbies. But two, my body is taking a huge toll from an injury I did many years ago. It's been really shit recently. Like, I can't do a lot of my creative activities anymore, and like I find it really hard to do work outside of work time, because it takes a toll on my body, and I've learned that they can derail very quickly, and at the moment I'm spending a lot of money on medical bills just to keep me afloat to kind of get me through.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's kind of shit, but like it's one of those things of like, I do it to myself because I'm doing my hobbies, but I need to do my hobbies to have fulfillment in my life, So I'm just trying to find the balance, but I think it's just teaching me that my body is not it's to keep it a well-oiled machine. I learned to look after it, and I'm not the person I used to be, even as sad as it is to say at 27, but I'm not the person I used to be, where I can like draw and sit there for hours on a chair. Like, I have to make sure I stretch, and I have to get up, and I have to go for walks. Like, you have to do these things to kind of keep your body in a good equilibrium, essentially. So that's kind of been a lesson in like teaching me to not feel guilty for doing leisure, and then making sure that my leisure activities are good for me as well. So like you can draw, and you can do a bit more extra work in the evenings, but you have to make sure you go for a walk, or lie on the floor and stretch out your back before you do it. Like, do a bit of yoga, which is all good stuff, but like the consequences aren't so far off, if that makes sense. You know, it's not like, oh, maybe when I'm 50 this will be an issue. It's like, no, this is an issue now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's kind of like, it's kind of like life is telling me to slow down already.
Yeah, actually, same for me. Like, I think I hit that point very like last year, and that's why I said I
Yeah.
took therapy, because literally, like, and my therapist says this, like, your body is literally screaming for you to just take a rest, and it was manifesting in so many ways. Like, I had a hard time focusing, and I had a hard time sleeping, because it's like, you know, your body's so filled with adrenaline that it's kind of it's having a hard time getting itself to sleep, and it's just so many things. And I feel that, though, like, because we have dreams still, and I know that I want to pursue my education, and to get to, for example, to pursue higher education, sometimes there are entrance tests for that, or like if, for example, a friend of mine needs extra credits for a specific, like, for math, for example, and then she has to study for that. And it's just, you know, like, you're already working like a 9 to 5, a 9 to 6, for example, if you're working in Japan, and, you know, that's what, like, you only have a few hours left to rest, to eat, to clean.
Yeah.
And then it's just, it's such a hard balance, you know, to just, you know, how do you work for your dreams and also, like, kind of be able to rest? And that's something I personally am still struggling with. Sometimes, like, you know, the pressure just gets too much, and I learned from therapy that I should just, like, lean into resting if I feel like I'm exhausted. But, you know, it's kind of sad, because I feel like I'm not putting enough time for my dreams, right? So it's always just like, it's just, what do we do?
You can't win.
I know, what do we do? So,
and then there's things like, you know, going to the gym as well. Like,
yeah,
going to the gym is good for your health, and you're like, I'm trying to fit that in, and then commuting takes time, and like, yeah, it's just, I feel like it's always piling on, and it's, I guess if you look at it, like, the way I'm starting to look at it, and is, you know, there's only so many hours in a day.
Yeah.
And if work can't be flexible, then to get everything I want to get done, sleep has to be sacrificed. And that's one thing that I cannot sacrifice. I do not function without like 8 to 9 hours sleep, which is a lot of sleep.
Same.
I've got sleep apnea as well, so that's made it worse. So I don't get a really good night's sleep anymore, and I really need 8 to 9 hours of sleep. But like, something needs to give, and like, I'm kind of on the mindset of like, work needs to give, because
I agree,
because
you have your life to live, so
like, I need a life.
Yeah.
But then you've got to weigh out financial struggles, and then this is kind of the battle that most of us face of like, I can, like, once things kind of settle down financially from Jonathan and I, he works as a teacher anyway, so his hours are kind of set in terms of what he can do in the future. But that's not to say that he can drop classes and he can only do, you know, he can go into part-time contracts, whatever.
Yeah.
And then once we're kind of in a stable position financially, then that's when I'll probably drop back my hours so that I can have a bit more time to look after myself.
That's
the dream. That's the dream, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe some of the things that I'm working on the side will become more prominent in my life, and you know, things will balance out. But I mean, yeah, it's just kind of, I guess you just kind of live here and now, and then like, you kind of hope that things change in the future, and if they don't, then I don't know, what do? You
well,
you change them. I guess.
Yeah, either you change them,
you
or you know, just take whatever breaks you can.
I think as much
as,
take any holidays, take all the holidays,
like whatever, like, see, like, sometimes people don't take them out of pressure or whatever, so make sure you take them. It's just, see whatever breaks you can get, and then you take them. Take a lot of breaks throughout work, and just make your life a little bit more sparkling than it is if it seems bleak. This episode, I promised I would try to not make it sound so bleak, but then this is our situation right now, so Yeah, but I guess like if anything, like to give a little bit of a positive note here, as a recovering kind of burnt out person, what has helped was just, if I am exhausted for that day, just letting myself rest.
Yeah.
I'm an introvert, so if I'm pushing like a little bit on the ambivert end, and so sometimes I push myself with too many social commitments, and that has taken a toll on my energy levels as well. So it's just like, kind of giving yourself some me time wherever you can fill it in.
Yeah.
And and you can still work on your dreams, but then you kind of schedule that in as well. It's just make sure you don't forget your time for yourself to rest.
Yeah.
And then you'll probably,
Because it all comes back to you too.
Yeah,
Like,
if
you
you
don't
don't,
take that time to rest,
exactly.
it comes back and it hits you like a ton of bricks. So
yeah.
I've definitely been doing a lot of that, listening to my body and just saying I'm tired, I'm exhausted, or my body's sore. Like it's time to just watch Netflix all night. Don't feel guilty about it. Like I've been trying to do more of that, and yes, it puts pressure on the things that I was supposed to do that week, and then my weekends do get busier. But I know that when I do go to tackle those tasks, I'm at the best state. I'm not burnt out. And I think that's really important to just remember that when you've got the energy, do it. When you don't, chill out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think that's the best way that we can make this as positive as possible. So let's end on a positive note. It gets better if you rest.
Why don't let's revise this in like a year?
Yeah.
Let's see. I'd be interested to see how things are in a year. If we're just like, yeah, no, life's still shit, or like, no, things have gotten get better.
Yeah. Let's circle back in a year. So it's
What is
so
it?
by the time
April.
that this episode gets to air would be anyway, we'll get back to you in a year.
May 2023.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's I hope this episode didn't kind of make your day a little bit more bleak or dreary. But in any case, just know that we're surviving this all together, and it's gonna get better, according to my friends in their 30s, and I have a friend in her 40s. It gets better, and if you want to feel better now, just find pockets of rest. Let yourself rest, and sometimes it's not just literal resting your body, but also just resting your mind, because you'd be surprised how often you think of the things that stress you out, and that you're not able to rest during those moments. So just get some rest,
Love is
people.
Blind.
what
Go watch some Love is Blind. Chill out.
Yeah,
watch something
chill
that
out,
requires
go on
zero
dates.
brain power.
yeah go on dates, spend time with your friends, spend time with yourself, with your cat, your dog, whatever it is. Anyway, we'll survive this together, friends. We'll be fine.
All be well. I look forward to our next episode.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for listening to us today, and we hope we'll see you next time.
All right. Ciao.
Goodbye.